Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Kayla Sierra, hosted by yours truly. Today's video is going to be a lot different than you're used to. I'm going to be doing my very first analyzation and review of a movie. The movie in which I'm going to talk about today holds such a dear spot in my heart, and for anyone who knows me knows I hate horror movies. I don't like being scared, but this film is completely different. I can watch this any time of day, all day, every day. It really doesn't matter because it's just so good. So let's get started. The Autopsy of Jane Doe is a supernatural horror film directed by Overdahl. It follows a coroner and his son performing an autopsy on an unidentified woman while increasingly bizarre and unnatural occurrences begin to happen. This movie is an hour and 26 minutes and it stars Owen Kelly, Emil Hirsch, and Brian Cox. If you have not seen this movie before, I highly recommend going and watching it. I will also give a disclaimer that this movie is extremely graphic, so be advised that this is probably not the movie for you if you don't like that kind of content. There are going to be spoilers for this film in this video, so if you have not seen the movie, I suggest pausing and going and watching it or setting time aside to watch it. This movie takes place in Grantham, Virginia, and we start off right smack dead in the beginning with this horrible, gruesome murder the police are investigating. It's an elderly couple and a middle-aged man. Blood is everywhere and they really can't see or tell what happened. The sheriff gets radioed downstairs to the basement, and that is where we find our Jane Doe half buried.
Oh, and did I forget to mention that she's naked?
And we don't really understand how she got down there in this house while everything that was going on went on upstairs. And one of my favorite lines that the deputy, I believe, says to the sheriff is like, it seems like someone was trying to get out. That's something I want to hit on really quickly. Is the dialogue is so rich in this movie. There's no fluff lines or anything that's just kind of like, okay, like we're just trying to fill up the time. Everything just flows like natural conversation as these people are trying to adapt and understand their surroundings and what's going on. It's very natural. So I applaud this film for keeping it concise, but then also really having some hard hitters, just like that line. We then get introduced to our father and son duo, Tommy Tilden and Austin Tilden. Tommy is teaching Austin the ropes on performing autopsies. It's a family business, so he's teaching him how to look at the smaller things when looking at the cause of death, which is really what this movie is about. Not necessarily who this woman is, but how she died and what time frame, because they both know what a dead body looks like. They've worked with multiples before, so seeing her come in and it really just be a complete mystery. There's no record of her anywhere, and to find her half buried and really in perfect condition, like there's no decaying of her body, she looks preserved. So that's what the weird thing about it is. We also get introduced to Austin's girlfriend, Emma, and honestly, she's Emma. Personally, me, I don't think I could date someone who works with dead bodies because I just know. But she's with Austin, and cute couple or whatnot, but she wants to see the morgue and everything, even though he's like, you know, like my dad isn't really cool with people being down here. And his daddy's like, she can come on, like, you want to see the bodies? And she asks the dumbest question, which is, are all those people like, no, what do you think these are ovens and we're baking brownies down here? Like, of course these are people. I do want to talk about the bodies. There are 6 bodies, but in the film we only see 2. The first body is a woman named Irene. She has her eyes and mouth sewn shut. The second body is a male named Lewis who has a bell tied around his toe. And Tommy explains that coroners did this to be able to tell the difference between a comatose person and a dead person, because if you're in a coma and you wake up, you're gonna start moving and the bell's gonna go ding, 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 ding. So they're gonna be able to tell, okay, you're not dead, like we need to come in here and get you out of there. Obviously, Lewis's face is hollowed out from a point-blank gunshot, which they think was suicide, but he also had poison in his system, so it's kind of like yeah, I mean, you got shot in your face, like that's gonna kill you, but also like the poison was in his system, so they're not really sure which took effect, which happened first. When the sheriff gets to the morgue and starts telling Tommy and Austin about this body, he says that he believes Alvarez, who was in the elderly couple's house and was also killed, he believes that he is the one who killed Jane Doe and tried to bury her in the house, but didn't expect that the couple was gonna come home. And he's worried about explaining her to the press, and it's just like, you guys figure out how she died and get it to me by morning, because this is going to be something that no one's gonna understand, and everyone's gonna be in an uproar about this, because this horrible murder just happened, and then this woman is found who seemingly has no connection to really anybody in the house. And something that I also really loved was that Tommy records the whole process of like the autopsy and is talking as he goes, which is really good, just because it felt like we were also getting a lesson while watching it, because I've never seen an autopsy performed. This is my first time ever seeing anything like that happening. Well, does Law and Order SVU count? Anyways, it just felt nice, because obviously for people who haven't seen an autopsy before, being able to be told what's going on, because you want to know like the steps. When we look at Jane Doe, we don't really see anything that's wrong with her. Her eyes are a bit cloudy. There's no external harm, there's no bruising to her. And something, now that I mentioned like her eyes, that Tommy says is like, you know, we don't really see this kind of clouding unless the body's been dead for like a couple of days, like the person's been dead for a couple of days. If the body's been dead for a couple of days, sis is gonna be turning colors, but she is completely just like smooth skin tone, like nothing appears to be wrong with this woman. And something else I will quickly just note when watching this movie, and I think watching movies similar to this in general, and why I really don't like horror films, is because while I know it's fiction, in my head I'm like, how have y'all not clocked this stuff yet? How have you not realized that it was time to pack up and go a long time ago? And get somebody else to do it, because I'm not gonna do it. But that's not what Tommy and Austin do. Austin notices that her waist is really small, which, first of all, body's T, period. Her waist is really small, as if it doesn't fit her body. And Tommy realizes that her ankles and her wrists are fractured, almost like she was bound. Then he opens her mouth and her tongue is severed off. Why is her tongue severed off? And his dad talks about how in Norfolk, I believe, how two girls had similar injuries to Jane, and he believes that she's a prostitute, maybe was a victim of sex trafficking. Our first sign that the sugar honey iced tea was about to hit the fan was at the very beginning of the film. If you didn't notice when you watched it, the man on the radio said that it was beautiful weather, and now we're hearing thunder. Thunder and beautiful weather don't go together. That's like mixing apple juice and toothpaste. It's a gross concoction, which is why people don't do it. Beautiful weather, thunder. They also noticed that there's a molar missing from her mouth. When Tommy starts to do the vaginal examination, Tommy sees that she has ridges and grooves in the tissues, which can kind of be like, okay, like, yeah, these are deliberate cuts. So everything up until now is pointing towards that she was being trafficked. They start to prepare her body for the internal exam, and we get 3 more signs that they need to leave this woman alone. The thunder starts to rip again, the lights start flickering, and the radio also starts to kind of static and like change channels, but then everything goes back to normal. Y'all not weirded out by this? Rather than cue in on all the weird stuff happening, Tommy just tells Austin to change the channel and begins to cut into Jane Doe. Blood immediately starts pouring out, which is very odd because that only happens with fresh bodies, and with everything that we've seen so far, it indicates that she has to have been dead for a couple of days now. If you are like a medical buff and you just like stuff like this is definitely a movie for you, because I learned a lot of new terms, and if I say them wrong, I apologize. As Tommy is cutting into her, he realizes that the tissues and the fat in between her skin and her organs are just burnt up and blackened, which he connects that to a form of skin cancer called melanoma. But it's odd that it would be kind of showing up on the inside and not have any outwardly indications or showings of it. Now that he's looking at her internally, he realizes that Austin's right about her waist not fitting her frame, which isn't congenital. Like, that's not something that could have happened at birth. It's really something that happens, or it resembles when you wear a corset for a long time. And as these things are happening, the shots of Jane Doe are so captivating. It's almost as if we're seeing her live reactions to everything that's happening, even though this woman is not moving whatsoever. She is stone cold, just like still, but seeing her face, it's so much expression in it. As Tommy gets to her organs, he notices that her lungs are severely blackened, which this woman's not a smoker. There's no indication of her being a smoker. Austin concludes that she should be mangled and disfigured beyond recognition, which she's obviously not. So that raises the question of, how did she get like this? How has all this stuff happened to her, but then not happened to her? We have more thunder and the lights flickering. It's just all these strange occurrences that have never happened to them before. Austin, I believe, is going out into the hallway because they heard the elevator or something. I don't remember exactly, but as he's walking down, he sees a person standing around the corner in the hallway from, I don't know what it's called either, but like one of those little like glass little mirrors that kind of shows you like both corners of like hallways. So he sees this person standing there, and it's like, the only people who are down here are me, my daddy, and all these bodies. So who is this person? And when he rounds the corner, there's no one there. Am I the only one who would have gotten my tail up out of there? Because people don't just disappear, especially if I'm watching you in this mirror as I'm coming around the corner and you're not there anymore. Y'all don't think something's trying to get y'all to stop messing with her? No one, just me. Because that's all that was going through my head when I finally like was rewatching this movie, because it honestly had been some years since I had seen it. I was really just like, no one's thinking this, like no one's coming to like a conclusion, or just like, here's a strange thought that might not make any sense. Maybe Jane Doe don't want us to really know what's going on. Maybe she's just trying to tell us to leave her alone before she really get a rumbling. Tommy pulls out a flower from her stomach, which that should be digested regardless. He pulls it out and he starts going through like a book of plants and realizes it's a Jemison weed, which is a paralyzing agent. He says that it could explain the inflammation of her organs, and the plant also grows in the Northeast. So we've really just come to like that conclusion that Jane Doe is from the North. And I've been saying the weather is just getting bad, but now it's like worsening. And Austin, for the first time, is like, yeah, Dad, like, let's leave this for tomorrow. And his daddy is like, if you want to go, but I have a job to do. Either stay or leave. And Austin decides to stay, which sometimes kids, it's okay to choose yourself in situations like this. This father and son duo, they're going over her injuries and just everything that they've discovered so far. And I don't know who says it, but one of them kind of comes to the conclusion like, this is kind of like a human sacrifice, which I was very much like, explore that a bit more. Like, tell me more. What are we thinking? And they really don't explore it as I had hoped. But Austin is like really firm in this having happened to her for a reason, for someone to do this to another person. But Tommy is like, he's not concerned about why, he just wants to know how. This is when the man on the radio really starts saying some like weird stuff. I wrote down these lines because they stuck out to me so much. The first line is, trust me when I tell you, this is not a storm you want to get caught up in. You know what, you're right. Let me just go ahead and leave, just like how I said I was going to, or I've been feeling like I wanted to, because that might be something that newscasters might say, like, yeah guys, like, you really don't want to get caught in this storm, whatever. But just with everything thus far adding up, it's kind of like, okay, like, maybe I don't want to get caught up in this storm, like, but then like, what is this storm? Like, are we talking about the storm outside? Are we talking about the storm within the morgue in this room right now? And then the forecaster, man on the radio, whatever, he says one of the most creepiest lines I've ever heard. And honestly, I hear it so vividly and I see it so vividly right now, like even before like I've actually said the words, because out of the entire movie, all of the dialogue, this line is what creeps me out the most. The radio man says, "One thing's for sure, you're not going anywhere." What? Tommy peels back her skin, which is covered in markings and symbols similar to the ones on the cloth. The lights flicker, glass shatters, and then there's a huge explosion and the lights go out. Anyone would panic in that situation. We hear Austin, breathing hard, and he's like, "Dad, like Dad." He finds a flashlight, cuts on the flashlight. All of the drawers where those bodies were are gone. They're empty. Empty how? What? That's when finally Tommy is like, "Let's get the fuck out of here. You didn't want to leave all the other times I was begging you, pleading with you to go. Now you want to leave." One thing I'm gonna stop really quickly and just talk about this is, while the buildup of this movie is rather slow, it's truly necessary for us to go along this journey with Tommy and Austin. We have to find out things at the same time they are, even though we're very much screaming at the TV like, "Stop, like don't keep going, like don't go in that room." Back to what's happening. So they're running out. The elevator isn't working. The generators have cut back on, but the elevator's not working. They try to go through the cellar doors, but there's a fallen sycamore tree, so they're trapped in a morgue with a woman who is seemingly dead, but ever since she's been in their presence, it's been spooky stuff happening. And now there's 6 bodies roaming around that were dead, that are dead. We know for sure that they're dead. They're roaming around and we don't know where they are. Both of them are as scared as they should be. Trying to call the sheriff doesn't work. I believe they are trying to do like the landline phone, and that doesn't work. When all of a sudden they hear a little y'all remember who had the bell on his toe? Who was dead? That means Lewis is around here walking, taking a little stroll around the morgue. Austin finally is like, "Jane, it's been Jane. Jane is jacking this stuff up ever since she came up in here. It's just been BS after BS after BS. Let's get rid of her." She has obviously been trying to warn us and to tell us that she doesn't want us finding out who she really is, and we have been messing with her, and she was trying to set her boundaries and we weren't listening. And while all of this is happening, and I'm really just saying, like, Austin, like, common sense, go dude. And the daddy is just not with it. He just doesn't think like this could actually be happening because of her. He's like, "You're talking about a corpse. Have you not been like really noticing like what's going on? This has never happened to us before. How can you explain all of these things?" And then also everything that we found inside of her, like, yeah, that's the only logical thing that we could come up with, or reason for why everything's happening. It's because of her. If y'all can tell, like, I'm getting angry because it's like, we're the only 2 alive people down here and we're currently hiding from a corpse. Yeah, it might be a little silly when you think about it, but when you put together all the circumstances in which are happening, it's not so silly. The dad goes into the bathroom of the room that they're in. I think they're in like an office. He goes into the bathroom and he sees like a silhouette behind the shower curtain. And me personally, I'm not gonna open it, but okay, go crazy. So he pulls it back. It's nothing. They both kind of like sigh relief because Austin's still in the office while the dad's in the bathroom. And then all of a sudden, Tommy is yanked back and the door is slammed shut and like locked. Austin's banging on the door, screaming for his dad. And we just see like flashes of Tommy getting whooped, getting real beat up. Door unlocks, he gets in there, and his dad is in bad shape. They return to the medical room and they realize that all of the organs and everything that they've taken out of her has been decomposed. It was almost as if like she was preserving her organs. They try to push her into the crematorium because, yeah, and the door is locked and shut. Like, he can't open it. Austin's trying to open it. He goes at it with an axe, and that's when he sees Irene's face through like one of the holes that he puts in. And his dad is like, "Nah, forget this. Like, we finna burn her right here." He covers her in acetone and lights her on fire. And in the most supernatural way, the flames don't harm her. And if anything, she consumes the flame. How what? The elevator comes back down, but they miss it. And, pushing the buttons, trying to get it to come back. They hear the bell on Lewis's toe ringing again. and the elevator comes back down. They get in, but then the doors won't close, so they're, you know, trying to push them closed. So they get them about like halfway, but then, you know, that's about it. And Tommy takes the axe from Austin and prepares to hit Lewis, and seemingly does hit him, because we hear like the whole flesh. Yeah. And when Austin looks out of the elevator, he sees that it's not Lewis, it's actually Emma. They were supposed to be going on a date, so she had come back, and that's who his dad actually hit with the axe in her neck, so she wasn't gonna live. And of course, this is just like a really big moment, because like that was his girlfriend. Of course, it wasn't like his dad was out to try and kill her. And for obvious reasons, they're both really high strung right now. Tensions are really high, emotions are really high, and everything's just in a panic. Nothing's making sense, so they really don't have any control over the situation that is happening. They finally get into the examination room, and it's like, okay, we're about to do her brain. Let's figure out what's going on. Upon examination, her atoms are still active. So this woman is alive. At this point, I'm screaming, witch. I don't know how, witch, how they have not come to that conclusion. When the lights flickered, glass shattered, and then the room went dark, that was when I was like, oh, she's a witch. Okay. And then I was good with that conclusion and moving on. But the fact that they hadn't come to that conclusion yet, and they hadn't realized it, was obviously extremely frustrating for me. They realized on the fabric, the symbols and like the little markings that were on it. They get the scripture Leviticus 20:27 and a time frame 1693. Let's all collectively as a class think about what was happening in 1693 in New England. If anyone said the Salem witch trials, you get a treat. And here go Tommy talking about witches are a myth. Bro, we get a little Salem history lesson, and they realized that all of the things that they were doing to Jane Doe back then created the monster that they're now dealing with. She's felt every single thing that they've been doing to her since she got down there. He begs Jane Doe, like, let me feel everything, like, hurt me, just don't hurt my son. He begins to suffer in the way that Jane Doe did, and we see her body start to heal. Like, his wrists start breaking, and we see her snap into place, same with her ankles. It's so graphic just watching like that parallel of like everything happening to him and her getting healed. Austin, of course, just heartbroken and not wanting to continue to see his dad suffer. He stabs him, seeming like, okay, like it's finally done. And he hears the sheriff calling out to him from the cellar doors. Remember I said that the tree fell over them, so he wasn't able to open them. So he runs over there and he's shouting like, oh, help, like I can't get out, da da da. And the sheriff is, you know, like, open, like try it now or whatever. And Austin, emotional of course, because his daddy and his girlfriend are dead now. The sheriff starts to sing this incredibly creepy song, but this song that kept playing on the radio, and that's when he knows like this isn't real. We hear Lewis's bell. Austin turns around, sees his dad, and falls backward over the ledge of the stairs to his death. The next scene that we see is such a contrast to how we first saw the house. Now we're doing another like examination of the crime scene. The sheriff's looking at everything, the dead bodies, and it's seeming like all the bodies that were in the drawers are where they're supposed to be. Jane Doe's body looks as if nothing happened, like they didn't do anything to her, they didn't cut her open or nothing. All of the evidence that they have been collecting, all of the pictures were burnt up. Like there is no trace that they did anything to this woman, but we have 3 dead people. Once again, 3 dead people, and she is still untouched. The sheriff and the investigators are just as confused as they were with the initial murder with the couple and the man. The sheriff is like, okay, I'm not gonna deal with this. Let's send her over to VCU. And the last shot of our movie is the man driving, and he's listening to a sermon, and all of a sudden the radio scratches and starts playing that really creepy song, and it pans down and we just see Jane Doe's toe twitch with the ring of a bell. And that is the movie of The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I would give this movie really 5 stars. There's nothing in this film that made me dislike it or I wished anything could have gone differently. I feel like the amount of time it took for stuff to take place was an appropriate amount. The one thing that I really wish I could have seen, all those dead bodies, and we really only got glimpses of 2. I really would have loved to see a bit more of that. But regardless, I absolutely recommend this movie. I don't understand how it doesn't have a lot of hype around it. Not a lot of people have seen it when I have talked about it or when I've mentioned it, but it's such a good horror film. Honestly, it's one location, a really small cast. It's so straightforward and to the point that you just feel and experience everything with these characters. Just like that, we're at the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have any movie recommendations that you would like to see me review and talk about, please let me know in the comments, or you can DM me on Instagram. And just like always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel and share this with all your friends. I've been Kayla, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!